My name is Matthew Forbes, and today we're talking about why do your reps hate cold calling so much? Like, what is the story with that? So, if you've been in sales like I have for a long time, you may have built your business on cold calling. Like, you know it works in your bones, in your soul. But you might be a CEO at this point or a VP of sales. Maybe you haven't made a cold call in a hot second. Let me talk about why sort of the younger generation of salespeople hate this thing so much. It's brutal. So I've made tens of thousands. I've actually made hundreds of thousands of dials in my lifetime. And I talk to a lot of sales reps every single week in my corporate job. And so I have a good insight into what's happening here. So let's talk about it, right? So number one, why do they hate it? It's hard. It is what it is. You know, back when I started in sales, or maybe you started in sales, it's a different ballgame back then. You go make, 10 dials, you get somebody to answer the phone, all of a sudden we're rolling, right? The number of dials that it takes to get people to answer these days has gone up dramatically, right? Not everybody answers the phone anymore. Not everybody is tied to an office thanks to COVID. People are on their cells. They're all over the place. It's just different, right? Everything is harder. Email is harder. Like, email is way harder, but everything is more difficult. But why the cold call? So what is it, right? So the younger generation of sales reps, typically, they hate it because they don't get the value out of it. They don't make enough dials to talk to enough people to book enough meetings to go, yep, okay, that's how I'm absolutely hitting my pipeline. It's right there. They just don't have that opportunity, right? So a big reason here, besides it being hard, right, is making cold calls is a mental contact sport. Your reps can get bloody. It's brutal. So if it takes, 10, 20 dials to get a decision maker to answer the phone, for starters, that's like an hour's worth of work or more. So now they just burned an hour. They have it. They're ready. The guy answers. And what happens? He very impolitely tells your reps to pound sand. Now what happens to your rep? They shut down. They're probably done for the day. Most reps would be. It's tough out there. So two easy ways to overcome this. Like any sport, what do you got to do? You got to practice, right? You got to go make a lot of cold calls. You got to get good at it. You got to go work on your craft. How do you go work on your craft? You go record some of those calls, right? Pretty straightforward stuff. How do you get good at, as I tell my kid about playing soccer, you practice and you record yourself and you get some game tape. It is what it is. There's a lot of rejection out there when you're cold calling. We all know that. Right. But the reality is reps talk to so few people. It's hard to really look at it and say, okay, this is good. Right. I want to go do this, because the real rejection is the voicemail. So you think it's somebody telling them to pound sand, and it's brutal. But the real rejection is make a dial, go through a directory, get a voicemail, hang up and go, God, I hate this job. You better believe that's what they're saying. Right. It's not fun. I can go send 1,000 emails. Great. There are great systems and platforms to go send 1,000 emails. But if someone tells me to pound sand, they just delete my email. They never read it. Or worse, it auto reads and I think they read it and they never got back to me. It's not getting under my skin like I actually just talked to somebody. It's brutal. It's very, very different. So when you add in that layer of I just burned an hour and I only talked to one person and it didn't go very well, that's really, really hard. You feel like you can go do a lot more stuff, and maybe you can. And now you take a look at who reps are these days. These reps want to contribute, right? We're not like making fun of millennials here, right? They want to contribute. They want to get the meeting. They want to perform. They want to go execute, but they need practice. They need coaching, right? Which frankly, the amount of companies I talk to who don't coach, it's unbelievable, right? You need to get it on tape. You need to coach. You need to make them good. Right. And you need to give them enough at bats to make it work. Look, last week, here are my numbers. Last week, I made 1,085 dials. Good Lord. I mean, I didn't, but my company did for me. I spoke to 41 decision makers. I booked 9 meetings. I mean, that's a hell of a week. Honestly, next week is just jammed. And I couldn't be more excited. Right. But it was 26.45 dials to get a decision maker to answer. Now, in come the hate. Here we go. Let's go comment with all the hate. Look, here's the deal. I was calling CEOs. They don't answer. It is what it is. I mean, they do answer, but it takes 26 dials. So here's the question. How much is my company going to pay me to go make the 26.46 dials to get one CEO to answer the phone? If that is going to take me an hour and a half or 2 hours. Good Lord. It's not worth it. I'm going to go do other things. So you have to really look at the lens for these younger folks who are like, okay, get on the phone and here's your script that they don't agree with, they don't like, they don't understand. There's no conviction, there's no belief. That's a whole other video. We'll talk about it a different day, right? But at the end of the day, those are the things you can do to immediately help your team, right? So if they can just make more calls, if they can go talk to more people, that's really what this is about. Right? Go talk to more people, record the calls, listen to them. I mean, do it compliantly, and all that other good stuff. So look, I hope this is helpful. And as always, the rent is due. So make a call.